In 2025, the U.S. auto industry still employs over 950,000 people. But even giants like Ford aren't immune to policy shocks. It started as a murmur, just a hushed rumor bouncing off the walls in a Detroit break room. But before anyone could say Model T, that whisper turned into a thunderclap, shaking the very bolts of America's industrial engine. Ford Motor Company, an icon of grit, grease, and horsepower, suddenly hit the brakes hard. And not because of a financial crash, not because of robots taking over jobs, but because of tariffs. Yes, the kind slapped on by Washington for Washington that were supposed to protect American jobs, except this time, they punched them square in the face. Now back to May 17th, when Ford dropped a bombshell. It was shutting down some of its most legendary production lines. The Chicago plant, the birthplace of the Ford Explorer and Lincoln Aviator, went from full throttle to ghost town. Over in Michigan, the assembly lines that churned out Broncos and Rangers stood still, as if frozen mid-shift. And thousands of workers told to pack up and go home. No timeline, just a haunting, "we'll call you." And the culprit? Tariffs. Not some foreign import tax, our own tariffs cooked up in the heat of a political trade war. Policies meant to bring back jobs somehow ended up kicking them out the door instead. And so on that day, Trump's trade policy didn't just land on paper. It landed in the break rooms, tool benches, and lunchboxes of everyday workers. What was meant to be a power punch to China and Mexico turned into a self-inflicted black eye for America's own auto industry. A sweeping 25% tariff on all imported parts and vehicles was supposed to send a strong message overseas. Instead, it sent shockwaves straight into Detroit's assembly lines. And Ford got clobbered. The automaker reported a jaw-dropping $1.5 billion earnings hit in 2025. That's not a dent, that's a financial crater. Even a heavyweight like Ford couldn't cushion that kind of blow. And then, the dominoes fell. First came the shutdowns. And it didn't stop at Ford. The Midwest, America's industrial backbone, started unraveling thread by thread. General Motors, caught mid-sentence, scrambled to rewire production schedules. Hundreds of jobs gone. Some truck assembly awkwardly shuffled back to Indiana like someone caught sneaking out of a party they weren't supposed to be at. Meanwhile, Stellantis, the parent of Chrysler and Dodge, hit pause on entire factories in Canada and Mexico. But the pain didn't stop at the border. It bled directly into U.S. soil. In Michigan and Indiana, 900 workers at component plants got the dreaded call. Laid off overnight. No warning, just a pink slip and a good luck out there. Ford wasn't going down without a fight, though. They threw a Hail Mary with emergency price hikes. The Mustang Mach-E, Maverick, and Bronco Sport, yep, all made in Mexico, got sticker prices bumped up by nearly $2,000 each in a last-ditch effort to offset those brutal tariffs. Customers were stunned. Dealerships were furious. Ford still couldn't keep up. Behind closed doors, the mood was grim. Executives whispered warnings. More cuts were likely on the horizon. The tariffs had hijacked the cost of everything: steel, electronics, even basic wiring harnesses. And then came the Lincoln Nautilus, imported from China. The sticker price ballooned so high, it became showroom kryptonite. Ford had no choice. It pulled out of China altogether. Say goodbye to one of the world's biggest auto markets. The trade war? It wasn't some far-off policy debate anymore. It was real. And it hurt. Then came Trump's response, and let's just say it wasn't exactly a warm hug for the automakers. When asked about Ford's production freeze, he didn't blink. He said, "expected." And then, in classic Trump fashion, he doubled down. "They should have brought those jobs back years ago," he shrugged. "These tariffs are about America first." That statement? It sent chills down the spines of every auto executive from Michigan to Mexico City. If Ford could collapse and get no sympathy, who was next? The warning sirens blared louder. Stellantis mothballed SUV production in Mexico for a full month.
Parts stopped arriving. Assembly lines froze like a traffic jam in the dead of winter. Workers went from overtime to no time. Then came the layoffs. 5 U.S. stamping plants axed overnight. Morale? Gone. Executives went dark. Union leaders once aligned with the company now turned with clenched fists. This wasn't just economic pressure anymore. It was a fight for survival. Just when things looked like they were spiraling, Ford threw down a wild card. They added a shift, hired 200 new workers, restarted a plant that had been on pause for retooling. It was like watching a boxer stagger back to his feet and swing one more time. The mission? Crank out more trucks on U.S. soil, fast. Anything to dodge those bruising tariffs. And for a moment, it worked. But behind that flicker of hope, a growing cloud storm. One that smelled a lot like burning tires and economic anxiety.
You see, unless the entire supply chain did some serious acrobatics, even the most red, white, and blue factories were on the chopping block. Nissan started ghosting U.S. dealerships, canceling orders for SUVs made in Mexico. Toyota hit the brakes on shipments. Honda, never one to miss a trend, quietly raised its prices. This wasn't a passing drizzle. It was turning into a full-blown hurricane. Then the customer showed up. April saw new car prices leap more than 2.5%. And that's not just sticker shock, that's sticker panic. Dealerships were warning buyers, get in now or pay more later. People rushed in like it was a Black Friday sale on wheels. But the lots? Drying up. Inventory thinned out like toilet paper in a pandemic. Shipments were delayed, and models that once gleamed under the showroom lights started disappearing like socks in a dryer. Ford pulled another lever, offering employee pricing to everyone. A move so rare, it's usually reserved for sales slumps and Hail Marys. It wasn't about profit anymore. It was about keeping the gears turning and hope alive. But math doesn't care about feelings. Auto parts made in Mexico, now 25% pricier. Cars assembled in Canada, taxed like contraband at the border. Components from China, batteries, chips, and pretty much anything with a circuit faced up to 30% in extra costs. And the automakers who depended on them, they were getting squeezed harder than a lemon in a detox bar. Ford's CEO, Jim Farley, tried to spin it. He called it the fairest fight in decades. That's corporate optimism for, we're hanging by a thread but wearing a brave face. Behind the scenes, forecasts were slashed, guidance was lowered, and someone had to explain to shareholders why a company that builds 80% of its cars in the USA was still getting financially sucker-punched. Then came the layoffs. Places like Kokomo and Toledo, cities that dodged the axe during the last recession, got hit hard this time. Assembly lines went dark. Entire shifts were wiped from the schedule like a typo. And it wasn't just the workers who felt it. Local diners, mom-and-pop stores, corner gas stations, everyone felt the sting. Governors started sweating. Emergency meetings were called. And suddenly, the auto industry's pain became a statewide crisis. Back in Indiana, the writing was on the wall, literally. Labor boards were flashing red alerts over rising unemployment. In Michigan, mayors went from ribbon cuttings to pleading with Washington like teenagers begging for Wi-Fi. But Washington, stone cold. The tariffs stayed. Wall Street, normally unshakable, started sweating. Auto stocks wobbled. Supplier shares hit the floor like a dropped wrench. Analysts issued dire forecasts. Keep this up, and over 1 million car sales could vanish into thin air this year alone. And from D.C., crickets. The message was the same. Hold the line. The pain's temporary. Companies would crawl back. Jobs would bloom. Rainbows and rebuilt factories would appear. Just wait. But inside Detroit boardrooms, no one was holding their breath. Ford hit the brakes on new launches. GM shuffled engineers like chess pieces. Stellantis, hiring freeze. Suddenly, a whisper turned into a scream. Is this what America First is supposed to look like? Because what's being lost here isn't just money, it's momentum.
The North American auto industry used to be a finely tuned masterpiece. 3 countries, tens of thousands of suppliers, millions of moving parts, literally. Now, it's being disassembled with a sledgehammer. Ford and GM can't just yank their supply chains back to the USA like unplugging a phone charger. These systems were decades in the making, designed for precision and speed. Tearing them apart isn't just costly, it's risky. But tariffs aren't giving them a choice. Now, companies are playing defense, shifting assembly lines, freezing shipments, canceling deals, jacking up prices, wishing on a star. And caught in the crossfire, the American worker. For every new shift added in Indiana, another dies quietly in Michigan. One plant lights up, another goes dark. It's like musical chairs, but someone stole half the seats. The divide is deepening. Trump insists the struggle is worth it. Democrats warn the cost is too steep. And stuck in the middle are the men and women who built this industry, watching their savings shrink, their kids worry, and their futures blur. Meanwhile, the storm's growing. China slapped tariffs right back on American-made cars. Exports drying up like a desert stream. Overseas buyers are jumping ship to Korea and Europe. And soon, the sticker shock might hit home. As for Ford, it's not down, but it's wobbling. And the people who gave this company their time, their strength, and their loyalty are now staring at empty parking lots and asking the one question that echoes louder than any policy. Was it really worth it?